Thank you. It is an honor to be here today. They say it takes a village to raise a child. That is the line my brother-in-law used recently at my niece's wedding. It's a phrase I've heard thousands of times, but it wasn't until he proceeded to thank each of us for the role that we had played in the life of my niece that I felt as if a torch was being passed. It does take a village to raise a child. But the flip side is that the wholeness of a generation will in turn determine the health of that village, and that is something we need to be mindful of. I think it's fair to say that the village that made me who I am today did fairly well. Looking back, my journey as a middle school student was met with many challenges, but it was nothing compared to the circumstances that many of our kids across this nation and in our small communities in Maine are facing. In just the past few years, the stories being written in the lives of my students are stories in which no child should have to live. Imagine for a moment trying to navigate the awkward adolescent years without a mom because she overdosed on her drug of choice, or without a dad because he was unable to battle the demons in his head and felt his only way out was to end his life. Or worse yet, navigating these impressionable years without either parent. That is the story of a young lady I had the good fortune of meeting a few years ago when she walked into my 5th grade classroom. Already in her little life, the baggage that she was forced to carry would be enough to bring most adults to their knees. 4 months before walking through my door, she lost her mother to cancer. The year was expectedly one filled with pain and anger. She'd throw herself on the floor, she would scream, she would crumple her papers, she would bang her head on the desk. She would even carve into tables and even carved into the back of a brand new bus seat, "Kill me." She was 10 when she first started cutting herself. I looped with her class to 6th grade, and even though the waves of grief continued, they appeared to be less intense over time. That is until the end of the year approached. She quickly reverted back to her destructive pattern of behaviors, which left me questioning all of the strategies we had employed over the last 2 years and why they were not working. The answer to that question was revealed the first week of 7th grade when I followed that group again. That is when this young lady courageously took a stand and shared a heartbreaking story of sexual assault at the hands of her stepfather. He is now currently serving a long prison sentence, and because she had no family to care for her, she is a ward of the state, growing up in the foster care system. Trauma has permeated our classrooms, and that is a major public education issue today that will result in grave consequences if it is not addressed. Depression is on the rise across this country. According to a recent study published in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology, mental health among adolescents and young adults is declining at an alarming rate. From 2009 to 2017, the rate of depression among 12 and 13-year-olds has increased by 47%, and those adolescents, 14 to 17-year-olds, has increased by a staggering 60%. The evidence is irrefutable. We as a village are not meeting the needs of our kids in developmentally appropriate ways to ensure that their generational future village will be a healthy one. Yet even though the data paints a bleak picture, there is hope. According to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, when social emotional learning becomes an integral part of the classroom, students show an 11% increase in academics and a 10% decrease in emotional distress. That's a start. It is critical that we guide our students to the understanding that their external circumstances do not define them, that their life is not predetermined by things that have befallen them in the past. We must provide students with the opportunity of social emotional growth, which will positively impact their readiness to learn and ultimately impact their life. All students are deserving of a classroom in which Maslow comes before Bloom. This past year, my school implemented the Second Step pilot program through the Maine Department of Education. This program, funded by a grant through the Maine Center for Disease Control, grounds itself in social emotional learning and is key in creating a common language, cohesive approach across grade levels pre-K to 8. In taking this work a step further, I have met with my district's new curriculum director and volunteered to be a part in developing a K-12 model, incorporating social emotional learning with community opportunities for our students at each grade level. A systemic approach will establish deeper relationships with our students in the community, which will create better learners, but more importantly, it will create better people. My students understand that while academic learning is critical to their success, it will never be more important than who they are. They practice self-awareness that fosters a growth mindset and learn the value of managing their own behavior. Students are taught that I can't or I'm not good at is language that inhibits growth, and therefore are expected to respond to challenges with, I'm having trouble. They learn that mistakes are opportunities and failures are simply stepping stones to success. Students know that room 706 is not my classroom, it is our classroom. They're encouraged to be kind to others and especially to themselves. Relationships are strengthened through restorative practices as well as community circles in which we've discussed trivial things like how bad the boys' locker room smells after PE class, to more thought-provoking conversations led by students of color that address racial concerns in the lunchroom. This work creates a community that is conducive to learning and develops a social awareness that goes far beyond the classroom. When I witnessed one of my classes independently organizing a bottle drive to support a student whose home was damaged by fire, it was an affirmation for me that the social emotional work that we had done over the past few years was paying off. If my students were here today and I said to them, you get out of it, they would look back and echo in response what you put into it. They're counting on us. This profession, this journey is one that we chose to take, and we must travel it well no matter what that path may look like. Because our kids, our future village, is counting on us to do so. Thank you.